Welcome. This video is documenting the prediction that the U.S. will begin an operation to extract the highly enriched uranium from Iran on June 13th, 2026. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does this time-stamped email. As we can see, it was composed on June 9th. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward this to you. Okay, so again, the war is really over the highly enriched uranium. That's what it's all about. And the uranium will be attempted to be extracted beginning on June 13th. Okay, so there's going to be a special forces operation conducted inside Iran where the uranium is to extract it, to take it somewhere, I don't know where, probably back to the US. But that operation will begin on June 13th. This is the prediction. And what I'm going to explain in this video is how this is known ahead of time. It is through God's prophetic signs that Jesus commanded his disciples to watch for. It has been known for many months since the beginning of the war that there would be an operation to extract the highly enriched uranium. What I'm saying is that it has been known all along that this silly phase of supposed negotiations to reach a deal with Iran would fail because it was always designed to fail, and you don't need actually prophecy to know that. You just need to know Iran and how they think. The Islamists in Iran and how they think and their strategy, and it's been the same strategy for decades, which is to deceive their enemies into believing that they are going to cooperate, but they never do. And the whole negotiation process is a ruse, which for some reason Trump has fallen for, but maybe he hasn't, and he's feigning to the media that he's fallen. Who knows what's going on behind the scenes? But it's been known since the beginning that this would not be the end result to this conflict. This conflict is the beginning of the end. That has been known all along. This conflict is extremely important in this process of the end times unfolding and the arrival of the Antichrist. Okay? This is huge. Let's just talk about the Strait of Hormuz just for a second. Anyone with any modicum of reason who also believes in God can easily perceive that God designed the Strait of Hormuz and stuffed all of the fifth of the world's oil into the Persian Gulf behind the strait. And God established Iran and placed it where it is for this moment in time that we are currently in. The Strait of Hormuz is extremely important, and it is not going to be resolved with some sort of deal. It's designed by God for Satan to use in this process of the unfolding of the end times, which I'll state right here, is going to include the nuking of Tehran. Israel is going to nuke Tehran. It has no choice. It is not possible to understand the Middle East conflict, including the conflict between Israel and Iran, without a spiritual perspective. You must have a Christian spiritual perspective to be able to know what and perceive and understand properly what is going on. It is impossible to understand properly this conflict otherwise. And so I've gone off subject, but this is the background here. This is what's going on. This conflict is huge, and it is all about the highly enriched uranium, which is predicted to be unsuccessful. Not only am I predicting the date that this operation will begin, June 13th, but I'm also predicting that it will ultimately be unsuccessful. How do I know that? God has communicated that. He communicated that back in 1980 with the unsuccessful attempt to extract, as in the extraction of highly enriched uranium, the hostages in Iran, in Tehran, with Operation Eagle Claw. God has been demonstrating numerous parallels with and connections to Operation Eagle Claw, and that's how I know that this operation will be unsuccessful. But it's also how I know there will be this operation in the first place. And what I'm going to do here in this video is slice off a tiny, tiny fraction of the knowledge for how this prediction is known ahead of time. I want to get this video out as quickly as possible because it was only realized today that June 13th would be the date, which only gives us a couple of days here. So we need to document this. God willing, Lord willing, in the future, if I don't have time to document all of the reasons and connections and explain fully God's prophetic signs that communicate what I'm predicting here prior to the prediction, prior to June 13th, then at some point afterwards, perhaps I will have an opportunity. I kind of doubt it because there's so much going on and so many things that God is communicating and so much to document. I mean, it's literally like a fire hose every day with God's signs, and it is we're just barely able to keep up, let alone document it into a video. Anyway, so when this prediction comes to pass, it will prove, obviously, the righteous Christian God of the Bible. Now, if you are a hardcore fundamentalist agnostic atheist, if that's your religion, because every worldview is a religion and everyone has a worldview, and the dominant worldview in the West today is agnostic atheism, which, like every other religion and worldview, has a core belief. And that core belief of this superstitious, dogmatic, fundamentalist religion of agnostic atheism, the core belief is, the hardcore fundamentalist belief of this religion is that there may or may not be a God, but it is impossible to know because there is no evidence for God. That is the biggest falsehood, the biggest lie of history. There is so much evidence, but these people do not want to see it. They're not interested. And they've heard some of it before. They just block it out, which is human nature. Because God did not design people to be rational. Human beings were not designed to be rational for God's purposes. It was God's prerogative to make it that way. And one thing that's described in psychology is something called belief perseverance, which is when someone is confronted with information that contradicts their worldview, they block it out. It goes in one ear, out the other. And why is that? Because it's extremely uncomfortable to change one's worldview, because one's worldview is who they are. We are what we believe. And so therefore, to change one's worldview is to change who they are. And people don't like to do that. It's very uncomfortable. And why is that? Well, it's rooted in their pride, which in the Bible is the root of sin. Which is why in the Christian worldview, life is essentially a test of humility, which is what's required to a large degree to change one's worldview, especially to the Christian worldview. And that's why the Christian worldview is the most hated worldview. Because of pride. Because it is the opposite of pride. Anyway, when this prediction comes to pass, the hardcore agnostic atheist might say to themselves, well, okay, this was always a possibility. It was always, it has been in the news, this possibility, although I knew about this. I knew that this would happen long before it became mainstream news, which wasn't really even at the beginning of the war. But it is out there. People do or are aware that it's a possibility that the U.S. may decide to conduct an operation inside Iran to attempt to extract the highly enriched uranium. And therefore, it could happen any day and perhaps even soon. Like, for example, June 13th. And so they will say, because they refuse to accept any evidence that contradicts their fairy tale for adults worldview, their materialism, the idea that the universe is an accident, etc., even though all the scientific evidence disproves their worldview, but because of the propaganda, they don't know that. Anyway, when this prediction comes to pass, what I was going to say is that they'll also tell themselves, well, I must have made a video for every date between now and the end of the year or whatever, or in the immediate near term anyway, because this video is actually only being produced 3 days before June 13th. So they'll say, well, you were making a video for every day and, blah, blah, blah. Because, of course, they refuse to believe it. So, or they'll say, I just got lucky. They'll say, I got lucky. Now, why that will be extremely irrational is the reasons that I'll be explaining in this video. Because as you will see, clearly, no human being is creative enough to concoct these reasons in their imagination. You will see that these are from God. They are profound, and clearly there's something supernatural going on. You will see this with these reasons. Okay, so stay tuned. Because if you are a hardcore agnostic atheist, or for that matter, any other religion that refuses to accept the truth about Jesus and the Christian worldview, not the Jesus of the New Age, not the Christ consciousness, not Jesus the prophet in Islam, but the Jesus in the biblical Christian worldview and in the Bible, okay, then know this. These reasons prove the matter. Okay, and that's the purpose of this video and this prediction that is from God. And I know far more than you the reason and purpose for this prediction. But it isn't only to prove the righteous Christian God of the Bible. The reason for this prediction that is from God, and the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction, is to prove the controversial things that I'll be saying in this video. I don't know which controversial things I'll be talking about, but all of these controversial things that I talk about in these videos on this channel are proven to be true with God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel. And God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections will be proven to be true when this prediction comes to pass. And I have the authority to say that. I know far more than you or anyone the reason and purpose for this prediction that is from God. Make no mistake. To not appreciate this is to miss entirely the point of this prediction. It is not for you to go, oh, cool, neat. You were able to know this ahead of time. And if you are a quote-unquote Christian, it is not for you to say, oh, cool, you were able to know that God was pointing to this ahead of time. No. The reason is for proving the controversial things that I'll be saying. That is why God has given me a voice through this prediction. And there is no debate at all regarding these controversial things. For most people, for many people, I should say, these things aren't that controversial. Many people know these truths that I'll be saying, but many people don't. And if you are one of those on any of these issues, then you need to know that you are wrong. And that's the whole point of this prediction. Okay, so the title is, because you got to title it something. Well, there's a good reason for that, though, in this case. Delta Force movie, Die Hard movie equals the prediction that the U.S. will begin the operation to extract uranium from Iran on June 13th, 2026. Okay. Now, what this is are just notes. These are communications with a friend of mine, and the insights build on each other as it goes, and so it climaxes. So stay tuned, but don't skip, okay? Because it all comes together. And they're just notations, and so I'm just going to explain what's going on and read these notes. I don't have time to make a nice polished write-up explaining everything, which would be a book in the case of each of these videos. So now, Kobe Bryant won 5 NBA titles. So what we were talking about to start with is the first game at Madison Square Gardens, first NBA Finals at Madison Square Gardens in 27 years. All right? And no, 29 years, I think. 1997? So 29 years. Or I should just add that. 29 is 9 plus 10 plus 10, which is at 9/11. And 9/11 occurred in New York. So there you go. I just forgot that. Anyway, there's like pages of information before these insights that I'm about to read that my friend and I came to yesterday, which was the day after the game. Now it is 2 days after the game. And today, in the additional information, the additional insights that were coming to us, we realized that the operation to begin the extraction of uranium is being pointed to. Okay, so there's background to this. Okay, there's lots going on with this particular basketball game, but let's just go with what we've got here. So now Kobe Bryant won 5 NBA titles. Could this be related to how number 5 fell onto Bloomberg? See, that's why I said what I just said, with how this is just not the beginning of the attempt to understand what happened in Game 3 in New York. We've already established that, for example, this player, number 5, fell onto Michael Bloomberg, who was sitting in the front row at the game. All right? So what's with that? There's something with that. We can tell the Holy Spirit can really make us feel like there's something going on here. Intuitively, we can know this. And if what is hinted at, which is the date of the game plus 5 days, that would give us June 13th. Now, that's when I realized that June 13th is 86 days after Chuck Norris died at 86 on May 19th. And at the time of Chuck Norris's death, it was realized, I think that was around the beginning, or maybe it was the beginning of the revelation that the U.S. was going to extract the highly enriched uranium. Why is that? Because of the movie Chuck Norris starred in, Delta Force. Because Delta Force was used, and I think it was like the first or maybe second time it was ever used, the first or second ever Delta Force operation, which was Operation Eagle Claw, which was the attempt to extract the hostages in Iran, which failed in a disaster. Okay? And so that's why God would use the movie Delta Force. In fact, in the beginning of the movie Delta Force, Operation Eagle Claw is part of the plot. The characters in the movie are in Operation Eagle Claw at the beginning of this movie. This is the movie, Delta Force, that God would use. In fact, I should put it like this. God made the movie Delta Force for this video that you are watching, for this understanding that you are about to appreciate and hear. It's all for this. It's all... See, when you have the biblical Christian worldview and you know that God is in the world, he's not just a little bit in the world. He's everywhere in the world. He's actively participating in human events, including, of course, the making of movies. You have no idea. God is using the rich heritage of American movies of the last half century to really communicate signs right now, including this connection from Delta Force. So Delta Force, the movie, involves Operation Eagle Claw, the extremely prophetic event that, as I mentioned earlier, is hinting at this coming operation in Iran to extract the uranium, which is like Operation Eagle Claw going to fail in a disaster for the U.S. And just like in Operation Eagle Claw, the U.S. will retreat and go home and end the operation. And that's because of public opinion. Because democracies are beholden to the people and the voters. Normally, we're not in normal times though. So in many places in the US, that's no longer the case, including, for example, what just happened in California, right? Okay, but theoretically, politicians who lead the military are subject to the opinions of their voters. And so you can't just conduct any old military operation and keep going when you have a defeat like this. All right? So, like what's coming, I mean. Or like when the operation ended in disaster in Operation Eagle Claw. I mean, if Jimmy Carter were a dictator and he had nothing or no one to answer to, he could have resumed the operation the following day. But that's not how it works in America, right? Now, so, yes. So what's the disaster that's coming? Well, God has been communicating that Iran will sink U.S. aircraft carriers. As hard as that is to believe, but that's actually the point. It's like the taking down of the Twin Towers. So hard to believe. It was a shock because that was the point of why God did that. And so it will be the case in this second 9/11 that is coming, predicted to be on July 26th, 2026, when U.S. aircraft carriers will be sunk during this operation to remove the uranium. By the way, if June 13th isn't the date, It's a step in the trail of signs that's leading to the date. Unfortunately, or rather, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but I have that sentiment sometimes because of these videos. You put all this effort into these videos, and then this date that God was pointing to ends up being a date, very important date, for the signs related to the prediction that are clear and profound and reveal more information about when this prediction will happen, but don't end up being the final end of the trail of signs for that particular prediction. So it could very well be that on June 13th, we have some prophetic signs that communicate more information regarding when this will actually happen, the beginning of the operation to remove the uranium. The reason why I thought of that is because it could be that, June 13th is more than a month ahead of July 26th, when the U.S. aircraft carriers will be sunk. I don't know why it'll take a month and 13 days for Iran to sink the aircraft carriers after the operation begins. So maybe June 13th won't be the date. Nonetheless, we do what we do. We do what we can. All right? So it's funny. If we add 5 days, we get June 13th. And so I thought to myself, well, if June 13th, and the reason why I thought about the operation to remove the uranium is because that's one of the missing pieces, because we've got the other dates for the other predictions locked down with solid, overwhelming amount of evidence. But because for a few weeks now, there hasn't been much going on in terms of prophetic signs and revelation regarding when this operation to begin the extraction of the uranium will begin. So I thought, well, maybe that's the date. Another reason why it made sense it might be is because it's predicted on June 15th, which is the Monday, 13th is the Saturday, that the stock market will crash 13% in one day. Whether it's the NASDAQ or the Dow, but there's going to be a 13% loss in one day on June 15th. And it would make sense then if the so-called peace negotiations or the deal making ends on the Saturday, and then when the market opens on the Monday, all hell breaks loose in the stock market. That makes sense. So that's another reason why I thought, well, maybe this June 13th date is the date for the uranium. But I had no real reason to believe that simply by adding 5 days to when the player landed on Bloomberg. I mean, what does that have to do with the extraction of the uranium? Well, anyway, because this is how God's science works, you can prove that you can find out if it's going to be the date by going back to the other clear prophetic signs regarding that particular prediction, in this case, the extraction of the uranium, and see if they connect profoundly and logically to confirm the hypothesis. And so the first thing I want to do is check the date of Chuck Norris's death, which was May 19th. And Chuck Norris died at the age of 86, and June 13th happens to be 86 days after that. So I was like, well, no kidding. That's quite something. Now we're working. Now we've got something here. Now we've got a potential confirmation that June 13th is the date for the uranium. I mean, that's huge. I mean, obviously, right? If I already knew, like I told you before in this video, that Chuck Norris was all about Delta Force and therefore the extraction of the uranium, as I explained, then adding 86 days to the day he died at 86 would be pretty logical. It just so happens, though, that this date on which we add 5 days is the date 6/8. As I realized after in the next email here, the date 6/8 is 8/6 outside of the US. I don't know of any other country where it's the 6/8. It's 8/6 outside of the US, including in Iran and in Israel. That hints at 86. 6-8 obviously does also. But it's even more clear if we, convert the date to the date outside the US, which the operation will be on the date 8-6, which is confirming the way we originally got to June 13th through adding the 5 days to the date 6-8. Now, on June 13th, it happens to be that it's scheduled for Game 5, and there will be a Game 5. So, we add 5 days from this basketball game, Game 3, we get Game 5. 5 days after this game is Game 5 on June 13th. All right, well, Game 5 will be in San Antonio at the Frost Bank Arena. By the way, the predicted 13% loss in one day is all about Iran. That's another reason for thinking that some development in Iran would precede the predicted 13% in one day crash on June 15th. Ancient Persia in the Bible is symbolized by the number 13. In the book of Esther, the Jews were persecuted on the 2 13th days of the months. But also, the name Iran is equal to 130 in Hebrew gematria. And also, we have the prophetic signs. Countless prophetic signs that confirm that 13 symbolizes Iran. Okay? So, that could be why we have the game at the Frost Bank Arena, because that hints at financial collapse, frozen assets, stock market plunge, right? Frost Bank. The reason for 13% too is because it's when the trigger or the halting of trading will be triggered. What I'm saying is that the New York Stock Exchange has these levels of stock percentage losses in one day that trigger the halting of trading. The first one is 7%, and it's something like maybe trading is halted for 15 minutes. The next level is 13%. And I think at that point, I forget, but trading is halted for like maybe a half an hour or something. And then the other one, maybe it's 21%, I forget. But that's when trading is finished for the rest of the day. So it just so happens, though, that this 13% is also one of these levels. And that would align with the name Frost Bank. All right. Now, San Antonio is where the Alamo is. And the Alamo is a prophetic sign from God that symbolizes walls of security being breached, as they were in the Bible, when the Babylonians and also the Romans breached the walls of security, but also in ancient Jericho, when the walls of security collapsed after the Israelites blew trumpets. Okay, also, San Antonio gives us the initials SA, which is the 19th and first letters of the alphabet, which hints at 9/11. And as I'm saying, all of this is leading to the second 9/11, when U.S. aircraft carriers will be sunk. God has been using ice in his signs, but it's not, as far as I know at this moment, related to this particular subject of the uranium extraction. But the thing is that God's signs overlap. And so all of these things will overlap with other things that God is communicating, including ice, which is symbolism for the SHOTs, the injections, but that's another subject. Now, the plane collision in Iraq, the U.S. military plane collision in Iraq that involved the KC-135 refueling plane mirrored Operation Eagle Claw. Okay, so let's start. First of all, 135 hints at the ships, the number of ships that passed through the Strait of Hormuz prior to the war. That's confirmed because God is using also the space shuttle missions as prophetic signs, and there were 135 of them. So, and the space shuttles are spaceships. So this is a number, right, that God is using. That's why prior to the war, it was 135 ships. But it all points to America with the space shuttle missions in which there were 135. And the thing about the space shuttle missions is that the two space shuttle disasters were almost exactly 17 years apart, which is why the two planes, the airships on 9/11, hit the two towers 17 minutes apart. But the space shuttle disasters 17 years apart was because it points to Apollo 17, the last Apollo mission, in which the last American departed the moon. The moon symbolizes Christ. It is a giant rock, and in the Bible, rock symbolizes Jesus. The sun symbolizes God the Father, and the sun's light is too bright for us to gaze at, but we can gaze at the sun's light reflected off of the moon, which is why watching for the timing of the moon in the Bible is important, as it symbolizes watching for the timing of the Lord through prophetic signs, including moon signs. And so that's why the KC-135, okay? Now, the thing about Operation Eagle Claw is that the area in which the helicopters landed in Iran was chosen because it had a moon-like landscape. But when they arrived, the helicopters, they were surprised to find that the area had been covered recently in ankle-deep dust, which caused there to be zero visibility when the Operation Eagle Claw helicopters landed on the moon-like landscape, which is a parallel with the Apollo 11 mission that first landed on the moon. The moon symbolizes Christ again. But that mission of America landing on the moon is most known by the phrase, "The eagle has landed." And when the eagle landed in the Apollo 11 mission, there was zero visibility because of the moon dust. The moon dust and the dust in Operation Eagle Claw is symbolic of the uranium dust. Trump has frequently referred to it as the nuclear dust. That's because it parallels the mission to the moon, which symbolizes Christ. The last time that an American departed the moon was symbolic of America's departure from Christ. The word in the Greek concordance for to disembark or to step off or to depart, a ship, is the 576th word in the Greek concordance, and that's why the last American to depart of the moon was exactly 576 months before the first American took the VACCINE, which is the mark of the Antichrist. And that's a case closed, zero debate issue. I don't want to talk much about it because I only have so much energy to get this information out. And that's why I began this video with stating clearly there is zero debate regarding these controversial things that I am saying. So, no, the VACCINE does not require an additional something to go with it, such as an additional technology or false form of religious worship. For those who are wise, it did come with a false form of religious worship, and it does not need a supposed new age of dispensation after supposedly all quote-unquote Christians will be raptured. In fact, one of the main reasons why the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have already taken the mark of the Antichrist is it is judgment for this particular doctrine, which Jesus called twice the Nicolaitan doctrine that he hates and is coming to make war with those that teach and have the works, with the sword of his mouth, with those that teach and have the works that are a product of this doctrine, which is the mainstream doctrine of Protestant Christians today. And therefore Catholics too, because they are followers of Protestants, whether they know it or not. They're theologically, they have conformed over time to this type of thinking, Reformed theology, which is the Nicolaitan doctrine of our day. Anyway, all of what I just said is a fact. There's no room at all for any debate, and that's the purpose of this prediction. All right? The Nicolaitans are, I've said it so many times in other videos. Okay, now. So we have the dust, the nuclear dust, which points back to Operation Eagle Claw and the dust. That's why on March 12th, this KC-135 collided with other military planes, because that's what happened in the disaster in Iran in the dust. The refueling plane, the helicopter collided with the refueling plane, which killed 4+4 military personnel and injured 4 in their attempt to extract the 4 times 4th prime number of hostages in the Iran 444-day hostage crisis. Because the 44th president is the Antichrist. Now, Kobe Bryant wore number 4+4. He also wore another number, and God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. And this number is a repetition of 4 3 times and another 3 times. In other words, he wore number 24, which is 4+4+4 plus 4+4+4 plus 4+4+4, which hints at the 444-day Iran hostage crisis, which led to Operation Eagle Claw with the 4+4 deaths and the 4 injured. Also, incidentally, one other thing, when they were in the Iranian desert, a civilian bus drove by and they had to take it captive briefly, and there were 44 Iranian civilians on the bus. Now, okay, so Kobe Bryant was known for being charged with rape, and the trial in Eagle, Colorado. Eagle, Colorado hints at Operation Eagle Claw, because the abbreviation for Colorado is CO, right? So Operation O, Eagle, Claw, Colorado. Okay. So anyway, after this game that we're talking about on June 8th, the losing team's coach said something about the ratio of 28 to 8 free throws. Okay? You didn't think it was fair. Those are the two numbers that Kobe Bryant wore. So Kobe Bryant, therefore, that therefore makes this game that we're talking about, on which we added the 5 days when player number 5 landed on Bloomberg, that gave us, that's confirmation that what this game is about is Operation Eagle Claw, because of the connection with Kobe Bryant and his numbers. Now, Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter. That's Operation Eagle Claw, where military personnel died, 4 plus 4 of them, in a helicopter crash. And Bryant wore number 4 plus 4. And he was charged with rape in Eagle, Colorado, as in Operation Eagle Claw. All right, now, so this crash of the KC-135 refueling plane, it collided with other U.S. military aircraft, which is exactly what happened in Operation Eagle Claw in the Middle East, no less. Because this was in Iraq. So, when that happened, 6 people died. That was on March 12th. And that brought up the total lost in the war to 13. And I could be wrong, but that total is still at 13. If I'm wrong, it was at 13 for a very long time. But you know what? I don't know any other news that would make it such that there has been any other loss since then. And again, the number 13 symbolizes Iran. Not only that, though, the number 13 is the 6th prime number. So it was 6 deaths, and the 6th prime number is 13. And it brought the total of deaths in the war to 13, which is the number that symbolizes Iran and symbolizes America, because America was founded with 13 colonies. And that's correct. What I am saying, you're right. If you jumped ahead, you are correct. God designed it all along that the end of America would involve Iran. The beginning of America began with 13, and the end of America begins with 13, if you will, on the predicted 13th of the month here. And so now I'm jumping ahead, because as I wrote right here, wait a second. 6 deaths for a total of 13 hints at the date 6/13. So it was possible to know June 13th would be the date way back on March 12th. And I could have figured that out when Chuck Norris died. It could have been known since Chuck Norris died, because had I figured the date 6/13, I could have confirmed it with the death of Chuck Norris. So this is amazing. Like I said at the beginning of the video, these reasons prove everything. And if you are agnostic atheist, well, now you know that you are like not just irrational. That's like not even an adequate word to describe it. To conclude any other conclusion other than what I am saying regarding the controversial things and the righteous Christian God of the Bible. This is also directed at the other people that aren't agnostic atheists but belong to some other worldview or religion. All of it is incorrect. The truth is the gospel of Christ. Okay, but I'm not done with this paragraph yet, because the 6th number is the 6th prime number is 13. The 13 deaths on March 12th is 3 months and 1 day to June 13th. The beginning of the Operation Eagle Claw extraction of highly enriched uranium from Iran. And again, Iran is equal to 13 and 130 in Hebrew gematria. And that's relevant because Iran's enemy is Israel, where they speak Hebrew. And again, the reason why Israel is Iran's enemy is because God is Satan's enemy. It's like that. It's that straightforward. But that also includes others that aren't necessarily Muslim. It includes all forms of anti-Semitism. Now, so that's amazing. So the 13 deaths, right? You get 3 months and 1 day. 1 and a 3. And furthermore, it's the date 13 in the 6th month, and the 6th prime number is 13. So this is really amazing, and obviously this is from God and not from my imagination. Now, Delta Force was released in the year 86. Okay, Chuck Norris died at 86 days before June 13th. It was more confirmation of the relevance of Chuck Norris being used to point to the movie Delta Force. And Delta Force, by the way, also is a 4. Delta is the 4th letter of the Greek alphabet, and force hints at 4. And I just realized that just now. I'll have to be honest. Wow. And that obviously gives us a 44. And again, in Operation Eagle Claw, which is part of the plot of the movie Delta Force, 4 plus 4 military personnel died. Delta Force, crazy. And again, they were attempting to extract the 4 times 4th prime number of hostages during the 444-day Iran hostage crisis. Delta Force. Crazy. Amazing. Now, so how do the signs on June 8th, this basketball game, hint at Chuck Norris? Well, I already answered the question. I didn't even realize it because it goes back to Kobe Bryant and the coach, which was already known prior to writing this paragraph. I just forgot. Anyway, how do the signs on June 8th hint at Chuck Norris or Delta Force specifically? Well, through Kobe Bryant. And Kobe Bryant was hinted at through the numbers like I just explained. But there's more. Because Chuck Norris was a cowboy. Well, not exactly, but the Spurs, because Chuck Norris is known for his role as Walker, Texas Ranger. And the Spurs are from Texas. And the Spurs are like a cowboy thing. And it's somewhat like Walker, Texas Ranger. It's like Texas countryside. I don't know the show. I don't know if Chuck Norris rides horses in the show. Probably he does, but it's not like it doesn't take place in the past. It's not an Old West show or anything. And so he would use spurs, I assume. I don't know. Maybe they don't use spurs anymore for horse riding. Anyway, but this is definitely what's being hinted at. I mean, it's a confirmation of the connection to Chuck Norris because he's associated with Texas, and this is the team from Texas. Now, in the movie Delta Force, the flight is hijacked on its way to New York. And again, the game was held in New York, the game against the team from Texas. If relevant, Delta Force was released on February 14th, 1986, 14,729 days before June 13th. 14,729 is the 13,005th composite number, a number that isn't a prime number. And this 13th of the month will be 5 days after the player number 5 landed on Michael Bloomberg. So that might be relevant, okay? That was the day that Delta Force was released. This actually supports how it is the relevance of this actually, because the day that Michael Bloomberg's, the day of the movie was released, was Michael Bloomberg's 44th birthday. I take it all back. That confirms everything. I'm just realizing it fully now. And it helps because of the prior revelation that was just realized, which is that Delta Force hints at 44. Because Delta, the fourth Greek letter, and Force hints at 4. And of course, this is all about the 444-day Iran hostage crisis and the 4+4 deaths in Operation Eagle Claw. But the Delta Force movie, which includes in the plot Operation Eagle Claw, in which 4+4 people died during the 444-day Iran hostage crisis, the movie was released, Delta Force, as in 44, on Michael Bloomberg's 44th birthday. And so when player number 5 landed on Bloomberg, he was pointing to the movie Delta Force. And that's why we add 5 days to get the beginning of the operation to extract the highly enriched uranium. Wow. 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 Amazing. Now, Bloomberg looks like George Walker Bush, as in Walker, Texas Ranger. Because the Bushes are known for being from Texas. His middle name is Walker. That's what the W stands for. And Chuck Norris played the character named Walker in Texas. That's crazy. And also, George Bush is the 5th king in the parallel with the 5th through 8th king's prophecy in the book of Revelation. That's another subject. But that's actually confirmation that Bloomberg and the number 5 and number 5 landing on him hints at all of this. And why did he fall onto Bloomberg? Well, it hints at the stock market falling. Because as I wrote prior to this email thread here earlier, Bloomberg is the richest resident of New York City. He's known for his Bloomberg Financial News Network, which is confirmation of the collapse on June 15th of the stock market, 13% in one day, it's predicted, after the beginning of the operation to remove the uranium in Iran. And now we know for certain that Michael Bloomberg hints at this because he was 44 on the day Delta Force, as in 44, was released. Stunning, stunning. I love it. Okay. Now, was the security measures at Madison Square Gardens for Trumpet somehow related to the extraction of highly enriched uranium? So, at this point, when I wrote that earlier today, I hadn't really recognized that we already had these 2 ways in which these signs actually do point to the enrichment of uranium through, like I just explained, the birthday of Michael Bloomberg and Delta Force, and also Kobe Bryant. But here's another way, because the big story of the day was how, and God uses firsts for prophetic signs, was how Trump became the first sitting president to visit an NBA Finals basketball game. And in doing so, the Secret Service caused some inconvenience for the fans and established a 10-block security perimeter around Madison Square Gardens. Okay, it was a big deal, and there were politicians that were criticizing him for it. Some fans weren't happy, some were fine with it, whatever. And so, that's why I'm asking the question here. So, because the military will have to establish a security perimeter around the highly enriched uranium site in Isfahan. And so is this it? Is this it? Like I said, when I wrote this, I didn't recognize these two other reasons for how these signs point to the extraction of uranium. So is this it? Okay. The big story was the inconvenience caused to the fans because of the security measures for Trumpet. This has to be very important. If this doesn't hint at Trump's decision to establish a security perimeter around the highly enriched uranium, then what else could this be pointing to? That in itself confirms the matter, because this is the big part of the story. And if this isn't the reason for this story of the security perimeter around Madison Square Gardens, just came to me. Okay. Madison Square Gardens sits on top of Penn Station, the busiest station in New York City, which is underground and has tunnels. It's all about the tunnels, but for the subway lines and the Amtrak lines. I mean, the place is littered with tunnels, right? It's a place for tunnels. And it's underground, it's a pit. And that's what Madison Square Gardens sits on top of. Well, the highly enriched uranium is in tunnels underground, in a pit. Crazy. And that's why the security perimeter was established around it. And that's why it involves Trump, because Trump is the commander-in-chief who will begin the operation to remove the highly enriched uranium that is in tunnels underground, like Penn Station. Not only that, the day before the game, there was a man who stabbed 6 people in Penn Station. That was part of the news story about this game, was how right before it was a madman. And by the way, Mamdani, which hints at madman, was at the game. The madman was stabbing 6 people underground. Again, there were 6 people that died in that collision in the KC-135 refueling plane, which hinted at or paralleled the collision in Operation Eagle Claw. I think we're getting somewhere here. Yeah. Wow. I mean, there could be another reason for that 6. I'm sure there is. If anything, it's 2 times 3. And the basketball president wore number 23, who was the 44th president, which of course again gets us back to the 444-day hostage crisis in which the 4+4 military personnel died in the collision with the refueling plane. All right. So this is just amazing. I did not anticipate this video to be as amazing as it is. And I knew it was already amazing, of course. Now, I don't think the security measures hinted at a dirty bomb because there wasn't any sort of emergency or evacuation. Now, what is predicted for March 26th, 2027 is a dirty bomb explosion in Penn Station. But in this case, this security perimeter, I could be wrong, it could overlap with the prediction for the dirty bomb, but I don't see how. because there's no emergency or evacuation involved. By the way, Michael Bloomberg might also hint at Michelle Obama. Actually, it does, because the nickname of the player that fell onto him is Grand Theft. That's his nickname, okay? Now, June 8th, the day that Grand Theft fell onto Michael Bloomberg, is 957 days to January 20th, 2029, when it is predicted that Michelle Obama will return as president to the White House through a Grand Theft shoplifted referendum in November of 2028. Now, H957 in the Hebrew Concordance of the Bible is booty, plunder, okay, prey, spoil. Exactly this Grand Theft symbolism. Now, this equals also the plundering or the stealing of Iran's highly enriched uranium. That's why, because we've already established in this video, the falling of this player onto Michael Bloomberg is hinting at the operation to remove the highly enriched uranium, which will in a way be a stealing, a plundering of Iran's highly enriched uranium. June 8th is the 153rd prime number of days before the election on November 7th, 2028, and the shoplifted referendum. 153 is 9 times 17. It's also a prophetic number in the Bible. One of 3 unusually specific numbers, and it regards symbolically the end times. It was Jesus' last miracle, the 153 fish. But anyway, Obama was president from 09 until 17. And Constitution Day is September 17th. Obama was the unconstitutional president. And that's why we have this 9 times 17 prime number of days to the return of Barack Obama and the election here. Now, because he will be running as Michelle Obama's vice president. This period is also 126 weeks in between count. That hints at the number in Bible prophecy that symbolizes the end times in the period of the Antichrist, 1,260 days. Now, June 8th was the day after Trump stormed in the interview that was during a rainstorm, and he was storming about and stormed off as a result of the argument regarding the shoplifted referendum. And so you would figure we would have this connection to the upcoming shoplifted referendum, and so we do. Now, the interview was on June 7th, and on November 7th, Obama will be 67 years old. That's right, trumpet, God's trumpet that he's using to trumpet and highlight prophetic signs, and primarily trumpeting the coming Antichrist. Trump trumpeted about shoplifted referendums on the date 6/7, and on the day of the shoplifted referendum in 2028, Obama will be 67 years old. Now, June 8th, Michael, as in Michelle, Bloomberg, he is worth $109 billion as of March 2026, according to Wikipedia, and he was the 109th mayor. That's a coincidence. That can't be a coincidence. 109 is the 9 plus 10 plus 10th prime number. Okay, now, Grand Theft basketball player, number 2 plus 5. Okay, this is all what happened on June 8th, right? Michael Bloomberg, these numbers here, 9/11, Grand Theft basketball player, number 2 plus 3. And this date is 9 plus 10 plus 10 months, inclusive count, or like I said, these connections here to the predicted Grand Theft election, Michelle Obama, and the basketball president who were number 23. Okay. Also, Michael equals Michelle, and Bloomberg is actually an anagram for Obama. If you have the eyes to see it, that's how God's signs works, and I know it. It is an anagram for Obama. Aha. Michelle Obama was born, or is known for her Take 5 challenge, when she would do the 5 exercises or whatever, and also her big campaign for the 5 food groups, and the female pop pop group Fifth Harmony made a song about Michelle Obama titled Boss. And she will be the boss, the president. And that's why Fifth Harmony made that song. So she's associated with the number 5. And that's why Grand Theft wore number 5. Because of the upcoming Grand Theft shoplifted referendum. So the name of the guy, Jose Alvarado, Grand Theft, was born 109 months exactly before Kai Madison Trump, who came with Trump and stood next to Trump during the national anthem at Madison Square Gardens. That's just more confirmation of everything, because again, Bloomberg is Mr. 109 here. And the guy who fell on him was born 109 months after the Madison Trump woman, the granddaughter of Trump. Chuck Norris was born on the date 310 in the year 40, which is another pairing of 13 and 4, which God is using to establish these connections to Iran. It's also hinting at 13 times 4, which is 52, and the word ship is equal to 52 in simple English gematria. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. And it is all pointing to the upcoming sinking of the ships, which will be the second 9/11, which is why these signs in New York, involving the number 109, which hints at 9/11, again, because it is the 9 plus 10 plus 10th prime number. So that's why Norris is involved in all of this too, and it's all about the ships. And Norris was known for being a political activist for the Republican Party, interestingly enough. Norris was born 54 years before Bad Bunny. And why is that relevant? Well, Bad Bunny performed the halftime show at the Super Bowl on the same day that Lindsey Vonn was extracted from the mountain where the highly enriched uranium is under a mountain. Okay, Lindsey Vonn was extracted by a helicopter, as in Operation Eagle Claw, from the mountain on the same day as the Super Bowl, February 8th. Which hints at extracting the highly enriched uranium from the mountain in Iran. 13 seconds into her run, she clipped gate number 4 and crashed. That's hinting at the crash or the sinking of the ships, because again, 13 times 4. All right, and it's also hinting at the predicted crash in the stock market from a high level, like a mountain, because she was at the top of the mountain when she crashed. Now, it was 13 seconds into her run, and it was gate number 4. It was her 4th Olympics. I'm not sure if it was her 4th or 5th Olympics, but she was wearing number 13 when she was skiing in this run, and she crashed 13.4 seconds into her run into gate number 4. She is 41 years old, which is the 13th prime number. It was at the Olympics. She crashed exactly the 41st prime number of weeks, 41 weeks, the 13th prime number of weeks, after the plane crash next to the Olympic Mountains in Mutiny Bay, which is another story, but it was a very prophetic sign. And let's see. Also, on that same day, it was the 4th Super Bowl for the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks hint at the sea ships that will be sunk, and they played the Patriots, which symbolize America, and they scored 13 points, another 4 and 13, which hints at the ships that will be sunk. Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if I'm missing another 13 and 4 and all of that, I might be. But this is a quote from an article the day after her crash when she posted, Lindsey Vonn posted on social media the following quotes. Because in downhill ski racing, the difference between a strategic line and a catastrophic injury can be as small as 5 inches. She continued, quote, I was simply 5 inches too tight on my line when my right arm hooked inside of the gate, twisting me and resulted in my crash. My ACL and past injuries had nothing to do with my crash whatsoever, unquote. So she emphasized this 5 inches. She said it twice. This is very interesting. Vonn says she made a 5-inch mistake, which is why she clipped gate number 4 in her 5th Olympics and crashed. She clipped gate 4 when her turn was 5 inches too tight in her 5th Olympics. 4 months and 5 days. Okay, she clipped gate 4 by being 5 inches too tight, 4 months and 5 days before the predicted highly enriched uranium will begin to be extracted from the mountain in Iran on June 13th. That's amazing, right? Because this was recognized a long time ago also, that it was ultimately pointing to the extraction of the uranium. In fact, although it just came to me now, I have to be honest, the powdery snow is symbolic of the dust, the nuclear dust. I didn't realize that. Crazy. Amazing. Bad Bunny performed on the day that Lindsey Vonn skied in her 5th Olympics and clipped gate 4 because of her 5-inch mistake. Bad Bunny was born 54 years after Chuck Norris, as in Delta Force, extraction of hostages, which symbolizes or hints at the extraction of the highly enriched uranium from the mountain in Iran. By the way, I just checked. It was 5 Olympics that she has skied in. All right. There's lots more to a Bad Bunny, but that's another subject because all of the signs overlap, right, with other things. I think we can conclude that Trump will begin the operation to extract the highly enriched uranium from Iran on June 13th, 2026. Unless, like I said earlier in the video, June 13th is instead a step in the trail of signs, which means that there'll be relevant, clear signs related to this, and it'll be a step to the date Trump will begin the operation to extract the highly enriched uranium from Iran. One last thing. Bruce Willis and extraction of hostages in the movie Die Hard. Don't ask me how I thought of this. It just came to me. Like the thought just came into my head. I don't know where, and it was as I was waking up. And that sort of thing happens when I'm waking up sometimes. This is out of the blue. Who knows? It's the Holy Spirit, obviously. So, I looked it up. Sure enough. Did we already discover that Bruce Willis's brain dementia gives us the BW, second 23rd letters of the alphabet, 2 times 23 chromosomes, demonic possession of people's brains? This is another subject that's not related to the theme of this video, but what's coming is the demonic possession of people who have taken the mark of the Antichrist that alters their chromosomes, and they will be possessed through their brains. Okay. Oh, it is related in a way, actually, because it is through delta brainwaves that will be triggered by the 5G frequencies. And here we have the player number 5 falling onto Bloomberg and Lindsey Vonn's 5th run, but More specifically, all of this is hinting at delta force, as in the delta brainwaves. And so Bruce Willis is overlapping with this theme with Die Hard, with this theme of delta force. Because the movie Die Hard involves hostages and the extraction or rescue of the hostages. So another thing that just came to me, like not in the same way, but it occurred to me like really quickly, the last Die Hard. Because why are there so many Die Hards, right? They made 5 movies. So we had this thing going on with the number 5, right? So the 5th was the Die Hard movie was the last one, starring Bruce Willis. The 5th and last Die Hard movie, okay, which is also confirmed to be relevant because Bruce Willis starred in the movie Fifth Element. The Fifth Element, which obviously, well, not obviously, but it hints at the element of uranium, the highly enriched uranium. Now we're on to something. Now we're really on to something here. Now we know that this hunch about Die Hard and hostages is actually correct. And we also have confirmed that this hunch about the 5th Die Hard movie being correct because Willis starred in The Fifth Element, and that hints at uranium. Now, the 5th Element, the 5th Die Hard movie was released on February 13th, 2013. That date is 13 years and 4 months. You've already heard me talk about this pattern of 13 and 4. 13 years and 4 months before June 13th. Can you believe it? Not only that, though, it's 4 times 40 months exactly. And again, Operation Eagle Claw is about the number 44, as I've explained a number of times. So, because it was 4 plus 4 who died in the military collision in the 444-day Iran hostage crisis. So we have the 13 and 4, and all of it, again, the Operation Eagle Claw, the operation to remove the uranium is ultimately leading to the sunken U.S. warships, and 13 times 4 is 52, which equals ship. Okay, now all of this, what I've just said about the confirmation for this 5th Die Hard movie, was realized and recorded prior to me having any idea at all about the plot of the 5th Die Hard movie. I did not see the 5th Die Hard movie. I don't know if I've even seen any of the other sequels. If I did see number 2, it would have been a long time ago, but I doubt that I saw any of the other ones. And so I had no idea. And so I read about the plot of the 5th Die Hard movie on Wikipedia after I recognized all of this. This is unbelievable. I don't use that word anymore. It is believable because the whole point is to believe, but this is amazing. The plot of the last Die Hard movie, the 5th one, involves a stash of weapons-grade uranium, a secret stash of weapons-grade uranium. That's the plot of the movie. Amazing. I was going to say unbelievable again, but that's a habit. What can I say? There are no words to describe how amazing this is. We had already established all of this, and then I learned that the plot of the movie centers on the stash of weapons-grade uranium in Ukraine at Chernobyl. That's the plot of the movie. The Fifth Element, the movie The Fifth Element, was the most expensive French film for many years until the movie The Intouchables. Does this connect with Wemby, which is the star player for the Texas team in the NBA Finals? And God has already communicated his connection to France as being relevant for other signs, including Pope Francis. But so Wemby is from France. He's the French star player. Okay? And here we have this basketball game involving Wemby. And so you might figure, with player number 5 falling onto Michael Bloomberg, so, well, this isn't really related to the uranium, but the 5th trumpet in the book of Revelation and Bible prophecy is about demons pretending to be aliens, and Wemby's nickname is the Alien, which is one reason why God is using him. And so there's that. And the fifth element is about aliens. I forgot to write that. So that's relevant. And then also the demons pretending to be aliens will claim that they cannot be touched, which is why we have this peculiar thing here about The Fifth Element being the most expensive French film for many years until the movie The Intouchables. So there you go. It really is all confirmation here. And in the process of confirming the relevance of aliens and Pope Francis, who will be the ambassador for the world for the aliens, the first of the 2 antichrists, the second being Barack Obama, the basketball player, all of this, right? Basketball, there you go again. But all this crosses over to confirm the 5th element because of the 5th trumpet and Wemby, etc. Amazing. That's it for this video. God bless. All right, it turns out there are a few more things to add to this video. First, though, I just want to recap on some of the additional things that were not explicitly written in the prior email, but were discovered as we went through the information. Okay, which is again that Delta Force hints at the 4th Greek letter and force, which is relevant because of the 4+4 deaths in the Operation Eagle Claw during the 444-day hostage crisis, in which the Delta Force was used for essentially the first time. Okay, so there was that. And then, again, the powdery snow on the mountain from which Lindsey Vonn was extracted hints at nuclear dust. And again, the Madison Square Gardens being situated on top of Penn Station, which is a pit with tunnels, and the security perimeter around Madison Square Gardens that was established for Trumpet, points to the nuclear dust in the tunnels underground in Iran, and the operation to remove the nuclear dust commanded by Trump. All right. So, God uses firsts for prophetic signs. In general, Trump is God's trumpet, trumpeting the arrival of the Antichrist. In general, the first sitting president to attend an NBA Finals game was Trumpet for Game 3 in 2026. This was 7 years. And in Bible prophecy, a period of 7 years is symbolic of the end times period, the period of the Antichrist. It is only symbolism, however. Those that are still looking for a beginning date of the symbolic 2,520 days, you can stop doing that now. And again, the prediction in this video proves this. Like I said, this prediction proves these controversial things that I am saying, and I'm saying authoritatively that the 2,520 days is only symbolic. You are not going to find the beginning of it. We are already inside the 2,520 days, and there have been multiple symbolic beginnings in God's signs for this, for the beginning of the 7 years. Okay, so we have the first sitting president, Trump, who is trumpeting the arrival of the Antichrist, and we have him being the first one, a first sitting president at a NBA Finals game, Game 3, 7 years, prophecy regarding the Antichrist, after the first former president attended an NBA Finals game. In other words, there have only been 2 presidents, whether former or sitting, that have attended NBA Finals games. And you know who the other one was. That's right. And that game was Game 2. And so Game 3 with Trump and Game 2 with Obama hints at 32, which is the equivalent in simple English gematria, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, of the name Obama. However, in chronological order, Obama's Game 2, 7 years before Trump's Game 3, hints at the number 23, which is the number that Obama, the basketball president, wore when he played basketball in high school. And if I'm not mistaken, it is his jersey, his basketball jersey, is the highest ever auctioned jersey. So the game was at night. Now, what I'm talking about here is actually Game 4. Okay? No. Sorry. Game 3, the same game, the first game that the first game in New York, in which the first sitting president attended. Okay, that game was at night. It was after the stock market had already closed in New York City. Again, of course, the game was in New York City. So the game followed the closure of the stock market. The following stock market day, after the game, the Dow lost 953 points. G953 in Strong's Greek Concordance for the Bible is the word that means a pit or hole, especially one used in a cistern or a prison, as in, for example, the bottomless pit, prison in which the demons are being held prior to their release, as described in the book of Revelation. Okay, so we have the pit in Bible prophecy, in other words. Trump has talked about prisons. In fact, the Venezuela sign, a significant point, a purpose for the Venezuela and Maduro signs are to hint at the prisoners that Trump has repeatedly accused Venezuela of releasing into the U.S., as in an invasion, just as an invasion is described in the book of Revelation. When the bottomless pit, the prison is opened, and then the demons invade the earthly realm. It's all symbolism. And those demons, and incidentally, those demons will pretend to be aliens, which is why these prisoners from Venezuela are illegal aliens. Also, these demons will demonically possess people who take the VACCINE, or have taken it, past tense. And yes, I know that's controversial, and yes, it's a fact. But actually, not everyone received the same thing. So many people took what they got wasn't even a real thing. Anyway, but some people did get a real thing. Anyway, those people will go mad, which is why the name Maduro. His first name is Nicholas because it's the Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war with the sword of his mouth on those that teach and have the works that are a product of the Nicolaitan doctrine, which the vast majority of quote-unquote Christians have today. Now, so 953 was the number that God communicated the day after this sign involving Madison Square Gardens that sits on top of Penn Station, which, as I explained earlier, is a pit with tunnels. And that's the word, what it means, pit. And of course, this is hinting at the nuclear dust in the tunnels in Iran. But God overlaps things, and this is overlapping with the bottomless pit in the Bible. Actually, I think it's H953 and not G953, but I could be mistaken. But I think it is H, which means it's in Hebrew, which means it's in the Old Testament, this 953, not the New Testament. Anyway, so the Dow's loss of 953 hinted at pit. The bottomless pit is opened in Revelation 9:11. On the same day, the S&P 500, as in G500 in the concordance, which is the word for Antichrist, lost 119 points, which also hints at Revelation 9:11, which confirms the relevance of Madison Square Gardens being situated on top of a pit, the big underground Penn Station. Okay, now in game 4, speaking of pit that's opened with a key, keys open doors. I'm talking about Bible prophecy. The bottomless pit is opened with a key that opens the door to the bottomless pit. In game 4, and the word, a door, the fourth letter in the Hebrew alphabet is the symbol for a door, because the Hebrew letters are also symbols for things. And the fourth letter is the symbol for door, which is why 4 symbolizes door in God's signs. And so, in this game 4, the Knicks dug themselves out of a pit, like the demons that come out of a pit after the door is opened, as described in Revelation 9:11. Okay, now, in game 4 occurred within hours of the closure of the stock market, when the Dow and S&P gave us these numbers, including the pit and 119. Just right after that was game 4, the door that opens to the pit in the book of Revelation 9:11. Revelation 9:11 symbolizes this, because out of the pit comes King Apollyon. Okay, now, and presidents are kings, symbolism for kings. Now, so in this game anyway, it was the franchise record for biggest comeback. I think it might have been the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history as well. But it was the biggest comeback ever in the Knicks franchise history, and it was in the finals. In this game 4, they were down at 1 point, 29 points. Okay? That was the deficit. 29 is 9 plus 10 plus 10, which hints at Revelation 9:11 and the hole and pit that is opened with a key that unlocks the door, as in the number 4 and game 4, which is also a hint at the 44th president, the basketball president, and the Antichrist. Okay? So that's all, it's amazing. They dug themselves out of a pit, out of a hole, just like the symbolism of the arena they played in. Now, this was the same day when the stock exchange in the same city, like I mentioned, lost 119 and 953, which since at Revelation 9:11 and G953, the word for pit. Okay, and the Knicks dug themselves out of a pit on the same day. Okay. Okay, I just edited the sentence, so I'll just read it. I don't know where I edited it, but the Knicks dug themselves out of a pit on the same day that the Dow pointed to the word pit in the Bible, and the S&P pointed to the bottomless pit in the Bible, while playing above the Penn Station pit. In this game, the player named OG Anunoby scored 33 points, which hints at Kobe, who once called himself the Triple OG. He called himself the Triple OG. There's this player OG Anunoby who scored 33 points in this prophetic game. Both of them wore jersey number 8, which confirms that Kobe is being pointed to here. Now, Kobe was 41 years old when he died in a helicopter crash. 41 is the equivalent numerically of the word key in Simple English Gematria. And the key is mentioned in Revelation, which is symbolized by Revelation 9:11, when the bottomless pit is opened. This is also parallel with the symbolism of the dragon and angels being thrown down from heaven in the book of Revelation. Because Kobe was in a helicopter crash that fell from the first heaven, the sky, down to earth. The angels and the dragon are thrown from heaven to earth. This would seem to hint at 3 days from June 10th to the day the operation will begin to extract the highly enriched uranium from the mountain, because Kobe crashed into a mountain in Iran, which is symbolized by the number 13 in the Bible. And the 13th prime number is 41, which is the age at which Kobe died. But there's more. OG Anunoby was on the Raptors team when he won the championship, which is the finals that Barack Obama attended. Okay, I'm going to elaborate on the Anunoby thing here. But first of all, there's 2 halves in an NBA game, which gives us a 1 and a 1. And the point differential at the halftime was 9 plus 9 plus 9 points, which hints at 9/11. And the opening of the bottomless pit. And this game was above the Penn Station pit. The player that made the tip-off, or the tip-in, off of Brunson's missed shot to win the game in the final seconds was number 8, OG Anunoby. Anunoby hints at Kobe. Kobe wore number 8. June 12th will be the 666th semi-prime number of days, 29 days, after Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash. 666 being the number of the Antichrist, and in Bible prophecy, the period of the Antichrist is symbolized by 1,260 days, which is why Kobe Bryant died on the date 126. So that's why it's even more amazing to have a 666 connection from the date 126. 6/12 is the day of the release of Steven Spielberg's new movie, Disclosure Day, about aliens. Disclosure Day gives us D and D, the 4th letter of the alphabet, and so this gives us 4 and 4, which hints at 4 plus 4, which is the number that Kobe wore, number 8. Helicopters in God's signs, and there's been many of them, symbolize the dragon in Revelation 12. A big part of the description of the dragon in that chapter includes his tail And helicopters have these tails that also God has used in signs. Okay, so that's helicopters. By the way, a dragonfly also looks like a helicopter. Helicopter crashes from the sky, the first heaven, symbolize the dragon thrown down from heaven to earth. The initials of the helicopter pilot, Kobe's pilot, who was from Azerbaijan, which hints at AZ. The initials of the pilot are AZ. The guy whose initials are AZ was from Azerbaijan, to confirm this relevance, because this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming matters. The Bible says is required. This is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And so we have the AZ helicopter pilot. The first letter and last letter of the alphabet is the 26th letter. So that gives us 126, the date of the crash. The initials give us the date of the crash. And the date of the crash, again, symbolizes 1,260 days, which is symbolic of the period of the Antichrist. And like the 2,520 days, it also is only symbolic. Okay, now, Anunnaki scored 33 points. He called himself the triple OG. Kobe did. OG Anunnaki, 33 points. Kobe Bryant called himself the triple OG. Okay. Kobe was 41 when he died in a helicopter crash. 41 equals key in simple English gematria, which hints at Revelation 9:11, when the key opens the bottomless pit from which the demons emerge. But this is also the same symbolism as the dragon and his angels being thrown down from heaven to earth. This would seem to hint at 3 days from June 10th to the day of the operation to begin to extract the highly enriched uranium from the mountain in Iran. Okay, which is equal to 13, and the 13th prime number is 41, which is Kobe, who died at age 41, which confirms the connection to the helicopter crash. And again, why this is relevant is because helicopters point to this coming mission to extract the highly enriched uranium because of the parallel with Operation Eagle Claw, in which the helicopter collided with the refueling plane, killing 4 + 4 people, right? As I explained earlier. And they landed in the dust, which caused zero visibility on the moon-like landscape, which was why it was chosen in the first place, which is was again a parallel with the dust on the moon that created zero visibility, as they said the eagle has landed. Now, Kobe Bryant was charged for rape in Eagle, Colorado. The C and the O give us Operation Eagle Claw. And Kobe died in a helicopter crash. What I am saying is that is why Kobe died in a helicopter crash. It was to point to Operation Eagle Claw in Iran. And that's also, by the way, why his pilot was from Azerbaijan, which is on the border of Iran. And at the border of Iran on May 19th, 2024, there was a helicopter crash with the president, the leader of the Nation of Islam, on the birthday of Malcolm X, the leader of the Nation of Islam. And helicopters in God's signs are symbolism for the X of the rotor blade, and the X is symbolism for the mark of the Antichrist. And prior to May 19th, 2024, I predicted that there would be a major aviation disaster involving a high-ranking politician. I thought at the time it would be Kamala Harris, but it was the president of Iran. And so I literally predicted the death in an aviation disaster of the president of Iran. I documented that in videos ahead of time. I knew this would happen because of it being the anniversary of the May 19th Communist Organization, or rather, the May 19th Communist Organization is named after Malcolm X and his birthday, as well as the birthday of Ho Chi Minh. And so that's why, because of that, we had the helicopter with its X-blades rotor blade crash. Also on the same day, the leader of the nation of America delivered a commencement speech at the all-black male college of Morehouse, just like Malcolm X was known for being the leader in the Nation of Islam, delivering speeches to all young black male audiences, which is why the leader of the Islamic Nation of Iran died on that day. I predicted all of that. All right. Now, back to what I was saying, though. That's all I was saying. All right. Yeah, that's it. All right, that's it. God bless. Actually, I forgot the most important aspects of what I was just describing. That May 19th was the 9 times 11th anniversary of the birth of Malcolm X. So that's why that particular May 19th. There were other reasons also besides that God was using to confirm May 19th. But the other reason why that was recognized as being important is because I knew that God was going to do something on that date. And I again thought it would be the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which would lead to Barack Obama becoming the president again. And that is still going to happen. It's just that she'll die in a plane crash on August 2nd, 2028, after which, in an emergency, the Democrat Party will nominate Michelle and Barack Obama to replace Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris. Again, back to what I was saying, though, about May 19th, the reason why I knew God was going to do something on that date was to prove to the world that Barack Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization. All right? That's a fact. I hope I'm clear. When this prediction comes to pass, it'll prove this. There's no debate. That's the purpose of the prediction. It's the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction. It's to prove these other things that God's signs have proven already. And God has demonstrated, and He knew He would do it ahead of time, and then He did it. He proved that Barack Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization. It disbanded in 1985, which was not coincidentally the year that Barack Obama moved to Chicago to begin his political career. The May 19th Communist Organization bombed the Capitol building in 1983. Barack Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization at that time. And I'll prove it this way too. I'll add this since we're on the subject. 1983 was also the year of the barrack bombings in Beirut, which incidentally is why the big explosion in Beirut on Barack Obama's birthday in 2020. It pointed to the barrack bombings, as in Barack Obama bombings, on October 23rd, 1983. the name Barak is equal to 216 in English gematria. Or I should say the name Barak. The name Barak. All right. 216 is 6 times 6 times 6, which since it's 666, the number of the Antichrist. And that's Barak's name. It equals that. Also, Barack Obama, his birthday, on which the explosion happened in Beirut, was the 216th day of the calendar year. And that's why the explosion happened on that day, was to confirm the addition of what I'm about to say, which is that from the day of the Barak, as in Barak, bombings in Beirut, it was 21,600 minutes, which is the equivalent of 15 days, to the Capitol building bombing, when the Capitol building was bombed in 1983 on November 7th. Okay, so again, from the Barak, as in Barack Obama bombings, the Barak bombings, it is 21,600 minutes, which is at 216, which is the equivalent numerically of the name Barak. So from the Barak or Barak bombings, the number that's associated with the name Barak gives us the connection to the Capitol building bombings. So from the Barak bombings, it's 21,600 minutes, which is a hint at 216, the equivalent of the name Barak. So from the Barak bombings to the Capitol building bombing gives us it reveals Barak as being the member of the May 19th Communist Organization at the time of the Capitol building bombing. A second witness to that is that first of all, the Obamas, Barack and Michelle Obama, will be in an election that will be shoplifted on November 7th, 2028, on the anniversary of the Capitol building bombings, the 45th anniversary. Okay. Now, from the Capitol building bombing on November 7th, 1983, it is exactly 4 times 4 times 4 weeks to January 28th, 1985. Barack Obama is the 44th president. And God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. 4 times 4 times 4 weeks exactly. That's also 64. Michelle Obama was born in 64. Michelle Obama was born exactly 128 weeks after Barack Obama was born. And this 4 times 4 times 4 weeks gets us to the date 128, which hints at 128. G128 in the Strong's Greek Concordance is the word that is the Egyptian. God is using this word and the Egyptian to point to Barack Obama, who was born in Western Kenya near Ethiopia. He was born in East Africa. He is the Egyptian. Furthermore, the Egyptian in the Bible that's being referred to in the concordance worked for the Queen. And Michelle Obama will be the Queen of America, the Queen of Egypt. In the Bible was the Queen of Egypt that the Egyptian serviced, was a member of her court, or the Queen's servant. Barack Obama will be the vice president under the Queen Michelle, who was born exactly 128 weeks after Barack Obama was born. Anyway, we get 64 weeks when Michelle Obama was born. In 64, we get 64 weeks, which is also 4 times 4 times 4 weeks, to the date 128 in 1985. That was the day of the extremely prophetic recording of the most successful single in all of history by the pop music all-stars of the day, all in the same studio all at once, because it was across the street from the American Musical Awards that happened that same night, when they recorded Michael Jackson's song, We Are the World. Obama being the Antichrist, Mr. World, which is why he was born in Kenya and lived in Indonesia, and has roots in Ireland, and on and on. I mean, and was the first presidential candidate to deliver a foreign policy speech outside of the US, not even as the president, but a candidate. He went to Germany. He was Mr. World. The audacity to do such a thing. That's Obama. He is the communist, worldly guy. Okay? So, what also confirms this too is that MJ, God's using the initials MJ, not just Michael Jackson, to give us 23, because M is 13 and the 13th letter and J is the 10th, so 13 plus 10 is 23. 23 is the number that Barack Obama wore when he played basketball. It's the number that points to Obama. That's why MJ. But also, God, in his signs to confirm things, pairs 23 and 44. And so you have the 4 times 4 times 4 weeks to the Michael Jackson recording, MJ 23. We are the world. And it goes back to the barrack bombings as well, which was a world event, if you will. Whatever. So, as you can see, it's clear. If it's not clear, this prediction will prove it. You don't even need to have all of this other proof that I've just gone through. Barack Obama was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization at the time that it bombed the U.S. Capitol building. Astounding. This is who America elected. When Barack Obama was president, prior to me becoming a born-again Christian, I knew, and I said it to everyone I knew at the time, America may have elected its first black president, but it also elected its last president. I knew it at the time, and I wasn't even into prophecy. I didn't even know Obama was the Antichrist. I just knew that people get the government they deserved. And with the election of Barack Obama, the unvetted candidate that the left went nuts for, because the left is nuts. The left has lost the plot. Now I understand it all from a spiritual perspective. They are in league with Satan. But I knew even before I was even a Christian that the left was extremely dangerous and extremely foolish, stupid, so stupid that they didn't deserve democracy anymore. And that's exactly what happened. And yet they're the ones that claim that they're the ones defending democracy when they're the ones that are tearing it down. The left always does what they accuse their enemy of doing. They accuse their enemy of doing what exactly they are doing. That's classic communist playbook, textbook strategy. Anyway, so what was I saying? Barack Obama is the last president. Yes, the unvetted president that the media did nothing to vet for, include, and did everything in its power to propagandize the man, including, for example, even not looking into where he was born, because he was born in Kenya. And by the way, that's a controversial thing that has now been proven when this prediction comes to pass. There's no debate, zero. But at the same time, his father was not Obama Sr. Obama Sr. was playing along in order for him to be allowed to stay in the U.S. And they wisely did a smart move in order to fool immigration. They went to Kenya to have the birth. But the truth is that Barack Obama's grandfather was an undercover CIA agent posing as a furniture store salesman that was traveling across the country from store to store throughout his career. Who does that, right? Most furniture salesmen do that. And he was assigned to Hawaii to cover the communist movement led by Frank Marshall Davis, who knocked up Barack Obama's mother at the age of 18. And that was before abortions were legal. And it's not a coincidence that Hawaii was the first state to legalize abortions, because had they been legal at the time of Obama's birth, Obama wouldn't have been born. The irony of ironies of all time. The Antichrist, and God would design it that way. Think about that. God would have the Antichrist as someone who wouldn't have been born had abortions been legal. And then have him lead the abortions party. It's amazing. So anyway, and then so Barack Obama's true father is Frank Marshall Davis, who was from Chicago. And that's why Barack Obama moved to Chicago, to follow in his father's footsteps, and also to follow his friend that he met in New York while he was at Columbia University, Bill Ayers. Bill Ayers being the founder of the Weather Underground communist movement, domestic terrorist organization, from which splintered off the May 19th Communist Organization. And Bill Ayers wrote Barack Obama's autobiography, and it's not a conspiracy theory. He's even said so, and it's on video. You can go look it up. Bill Ayers wrote Obama's autobiography when he entered politics, Dreams from My Father, which is prophetic in itself, the title, and it's a description of his prophetic dream, which is a prophetic dream from God, which reveals that he is the Antichrist, that particular dream, if you listen to it, because Barack Obama narrates it, and it clearly is Satan, who is his father, in that dream. And so anyway, now you know the truth about Barack Obama. And so that's all of that is why I knew ahead of time the president of Iran would crash in the helicopter on that day. Like I said, all I knew was that there would be a major aviation disaster and that it was going to be Kamala Harris, but instead it was another national leader instead. But I explained all that earlier. So anyway, that's the end of this video. God bless. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Do not listen to or follow the example of most quote-unquote Christians. Instead, follow the teachings of Jesus, which most quote-unquote Christians ignore. Like Jesus, you must surrender your life. Put nothing ahead of Jesus, your Lord. Like Jesus, you must lay down your life so that you may live. As Jesus said, one must die first, like a kernel of wheat going into the ground, in order to then grow and produce fruit. And like Jesus said, one must produce fruit, or else like a branch or a tree not producing fruit, they will be thrown into the fire. Jesus was speaking to quote-unquote Christians when he said this. One must die the self in order to be born again. And like Jesus said, one must be born again to enter the kingdom. Like Jesus, you must sacrifice your life for the sake of the coming kingdom. It means to do work that involves some form of sacrifice and risk. To have faith does not mean to intellectually agree. You need to demonstrate your faith through taking action. To have faith means to trust in God's promises. Taking action demonstrates trust and fear of the Lord. The primary reason that the wrath of God is coming upon America is quote-unquote Christians that do not get what I have just explained. The only reason a Christian is alive is in order to help other people become Christians and make it to the kingdom. Do not be deceived by those on the political left claiming to be quote-unquote Christians. There is no such thing as a Christian on today's political progressive left. Jesus said, "Do not think I have come to abolish or change any bit of the law or the prophets of the Old Testament Bible." In other words, the God of the Old Testament Bible is the exact same God of the New Testament Bible. It is essential that you learn about the God of the Bible and his ways. The God of the Old Testament Bible is looking to see who will fear him, and to fear God is not the same thing as quote-unquote revering or honoring God. Through Christ's ransom payment, a Christian is someone who has been redeemed and freed from slavery to sin and Satan. In response, a true Christian recognizes that their life in this world does not belong to them, and they become a willing slave to Jesus for the sake of the kingdom. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. And don't only put the link to this video or another video on this channel in comments sections of places you typically visit, but importantly, put the link to the video in places you never visit, where people who don't think like you visit. If you are a quote-unquote Christian, nothing in terms of an evangelism tool compares to this video with its prediction. It is a massive bag of gold. Beware of Jesus' warning through the quote-unquote Christian that did nothing with his bag of gold and was banished to hell. Also, read Ezekiel chapter 3 and 33 for this same warning. If you think you might be spending too much time watching videos instead of working and sacrificing for the kingdom through handing out flyers and potentially helping hundreds of people in the same length of time as a video, my flyer is filled with amazing information that people need to know right now, and it points people to the video channel. Now is not the time to be handing out typical evangelical tracts that are largely based in error anyway, such as, quote, Jesus loves you, unquote, for example. You can hand out the flyer on busy street corners, put them on car windshields in busy parking lots, and put them in mailboxes. Just send the file to your local print shop. You can download the file from the website. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, asteroidprediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the Odyssey.com or Rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.